Hello and welcome to July. So I actually have quite a bit to talk about this video. So the rug that I was making from the t-shirt yarn, I have given up on it because it's just taking forever and I frankly cannot be bothered. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It might become the bottom of a bag or something in the future, but I've sort of scrapped it for the moment. First thing that I actually finished is the granny hex cardie that I made for my colleague Ellie, and I finished that on the 3rd of July. And then the next thing I started in June and is actually the most recently finished item is this massive scarf that I made for my friend. I haven't got a picture of it in all its glory, but it's over 3 meters long. At their request, they wanted it long enough to go around their neck twice, so it can go once for slight comfort and twice for ultimate coziness. And in fact I'm using the leftover yarn from that to make something else, which I will talk about later on. And then for the things I actually made in July, I made a small handbag slash pouch thing. I wanted it to be kind of like a medieval coin purse with like a flat bottom and like a drawstring pouch, but it just kind of ended up looking like a weird water balloon or hand grenade. So I wasn't very happy with that. So because I was making that for a specific event, I made something else instead, and I made this little zippy handbag, which I really like. It matches the cardigan that I made for the same thing, which actually works out kind of better. I wish I'd gone with that for the start. The next thing is a tester dog sock. A colleague of mine won a pair of socks in the raffle that we did for our Pride event at work, and from me. And she wanted, instead of a pair of socks for a human, she wanted a set of socks for a dog. So I made a tester one. I didn't actually have the chance to give it to her to test it on the dog, but I figured it would probably be alright, and went ahead and made the real ones. The next thing that I made is my absolute favourite thing that I've made this month, and it's a jumpsuit that I sewed. I haven't got a picture of me wearing it because I just don't like full body photographs of myself. You can see this picture instead of it hanging in the living room. I got the idea from the stitchery. She was doing a video on various different things that she was making, which is most of her videos to be fair. And one thing that she made was a jumpsuit basically out of a square of fabric folded up in half, and then you sew most of the way from both ends and leave the middle empty, and then cut down the middle, and it kind of turns to become the two legs and the front of the body. And then I added on some straps, which instead of doing ones that tie up, because like, in fact I'm wearing a different one today, like jumpsuits that have a tie like this are not my favourite. I was trying to think of a way to have them so I'm not stretching anything by taking it off and on, and I found these little hooks that are usually for like a cloak or a cardigan or a jumper or something like that, as a closure rather than being for that, but they work really well. I was a bit worried that they might like come unhooked and pop off when I'm sitting down or go to stand up from sitting down, but they don't tend to do it very much. It's super cozy, absolutely fantastic in this weather though, because it's so loose and flowy. It's not very hot, so I absolutely love it, and I have an idea to make a dress in a similar sort of fashion. I'm hoping I'll have time to do, because I sewed this by hand because my sewing machine isn't accessible at the moment, and it took me about 2 or 3 days altogether. The dress I might try and get the sewing machine out for so it doesn't take as long, or I might just hand sew it and take a bit longer to do it. I haven't decided yet. The next thing I made is the actual dog socks for the dog. And while I was making them, I thought it would be nice to make something a little matchy with it, so I made the next thing in my diary, journal, not diary, you know what I mean, which is a little bandana for her. I haven't had photos of her wearing any of them yet, but I'm hoping that they'll be coming along at some point soon. I had plenty of the same yarn left over, so I thought it'd be nice to make a little something extra for her to wear. The next thing that I made was at my mum's request. She wanted some like little slipper sock things because my parents' house can get quite cold during the night, and if she needs to run to the bathroom or in the morning when she's getting up or whatever, she doesn't want to have bare feet. So she wanted a pair of like slipper socks with grippy underneath, because she'd seen me I happened to go and visit her while I was making the dog socks, and she saw the latex rubber stuff that I was putting on the bottom of them, and she had an idea, so she thought, make these slipper socks. I sent them to her and they're mostly alright. The only trouble is that the rubber underneath, because of the sort of the size of the blobs, she said it's like walking on little pebbles. So I'm going to have another go at them and figure out a way to make it smoother, so that it's less painful on her feet. Although she's not walking very far in them, I'd still like her to be comfortable. The next thing that I made is for an order for one of my colleagues for a set of baby things for one of her friends, and it's actually the last thing that's in this journal, because I got to the end of it. So this was journal number 3, and I started journal number 4. So the last thing in here is a baby blanket for the order. I actually managed to find the exact picture that she'd found for her reference, so I managed to find that, and it was a free pattern online, so I was able to make it exactly as she had wanted when she saw it. The next book is this one. I really like it. It's very medieval themed. I like it's like the medieval tapestries. I really like that style. The first thing that I did when I got this book was adding the elastic on the back for the pen. I also added some elastic onto my hair towel. I have like I don't know what it's called, but like a hair towel that you can twist it up, and it has a button and hooks at the back, and I've had it for probably over 10 years now, so the elastic in the loop was wearing out, so I added some more because I had the elastic out for doing this. The next thing is again for the baby order, a little crocheted romper, absolutely so cute, and it didn't take me too long to make either. It only took about 3 or 4 hours while I was watching TV, so that was good. Then I made like a set of booties, mitts and a hat. And then the last thing for that I made was the baby cardigan, which it turned out so cute, and I had the perfect buttons for it. This set is for a baby girl. I have this big jar of buttons, which is going to get bigger because I've just on Etsy I bought a job lot of vintage buttons. So those buttons are a mixture of my buttons and ones that I inherited from my grandmother from her jar of buttons. There was 3 lovely little pink buttons, which I'll show you a picture of them here in my hand. And they worked so well and looked so good on the little jumper, so I'm super happy about that. Then I made a cover for this journal, which I just popped back on there. So again, using one of the buttons. I'll see if I can zoom in. Is that focusing? No idea. But that's one of the buttons from the button jar. When I saw it, I knew I wanted to put it on there. And the last thing for July, which I started but not finished, is a cushion cover. So I spoke about this earlier, so the scarf, the big scarf that I made is with this yarn, a nice big thick chunky, and I've got a big cushion that I want to make a cover for, because I find that sometimes seats can be a bit hard on my joints, and if I sit on a seat that's a bit too hard for a long period of time, my hips and my knees hurt. So I want to have a cushion that's going to live in the car, so that if I go somewhere and I need a cushion, I've got one to hand and I'm not suffering and aching more than I have to. I actually don't know if I've got enough of this yarn left over to make the whole cover, so if I have to order more, I have to order more. It's not the end of the world, but it means that I've used up the rest of this yarn. I'll just be a bit more careful with the amount and maybe just get one skein at a time rather than getting a few. So yeah, that's it for July. I don't know what August is going to bring because it is quite warm at the moment, and I think it's going to remain warm. I don't know how much knitting or crocheting I'm going to want to do. Like, if it's too hot, I don't want to do it, but I have plenty of other crafts that I can lean on if I do want to do something and it's too hot. If you'd like to find me on any other socials, I have a link to my link tree down below. Also, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. There's also a link to Steam for a game that my friend is making. It's called Quantum Witch. It's absolutely fantastic. If you do have Steam and you want to check it out and maybe put it on your wish list, the link is down below, and myself and my friend would be very grateful if you could do that. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.